To know who we are, and where we're going, we must know how we arrived here. Welcome to Prophetic, a revolutionary study of the Great Pyramid, which promises to rewrite civilization's history. Welcome to the Prophetic Podcast, Big Dave.
What's up, man?
How are you?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm doing good.
Say hi to the viewers. Thanks for
What's
joining.
up?
Yeah, I'm excited to sit and talk with you. I don't know best how to describe you other than Big Dave. That says a lot.
My brother came to me the other day and he said, you know how many people don't know that I'm your brother? And we grew up in the same town. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He's like, people don't even know your last name anymore. Like, people don't know your last name. So it's Big Dave.
Dave Canoy.
Dave Canoy.
All right. For those that don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate you joining me. And so we had a car ride. I had Wade on, which was great, and he played a song and all. It was fantastic. But we had a little car ride where I was like, hey, I'm working on this pyramid thing, and you mentioned this Zecharia Sitchin and this and that, or whatever. And it's like, it's too much to get into.
I cannot believe you remember that.
I remember that car ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Zecharia Sitchin and...
I remember, yeah, it's just, I don't know. My
Right.
brain is kind of scary. But, so how would you even best describe yourself?
I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Okay.
And that has all its pros and a ton of cons.
Right.
And I say that I am a professional relationship builder, and that's really what I enjoy doing, is building relationships, and I do it in the form of tattooing. So I tattoo 4 days a week. I'm heavily involved in personal development, and I facilitate a program. I co-founded this program with a friend of mine named Jennifer, and I got sick last year and almost died, and the program had to continue. There was people involved in the program, and I wasn't able to be there, so I just gave her the program and then said I'd figure out what I'd do once I got healthier. And
Right.
So now she just pays me to come and facilitate, which is awesome, and she does all the day-to-day stuff. So,
Yeah. Now tell me about that. Is it just community based? What is that exactly?
No, it's a paid process. So we have a 3-day program, which is 30 hours. It's 10 hours a day, a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And the two basic main concepts are based around to think is to create and the win-win philosophy. So,
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, it's personal development started back with Napoleon Hill and To Think and Grow Rich, and then he took that information that he got from interviewing 500 most successful people in the world, and,
Right.
and then there's just been personal development programs. So this basically goes into our thoughts create the world that we're living in, and do I like what our subconscious, how big of a play our subconscious is on our day-to-day
Attitudes,
life,
behaviors,
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. So nowhere in the world does it teach us to understand. Like, science now can show us that our thoughts create our feelings create our actions, and our actions create our results. So if I have results in my life that I don't want, then I need to go back and change my thoughts. However, we have 70,000 subconscious thoughts that run through our brain every minute.
Yeah.
Every minute. So nobody's teaching us how to understand what's going on in our subconscious mind.
Okay.
And so if I want different results in my life that I don't currently have, I have to change my thoughts or my belief systems.
Yeah.
If I want to get rid of some of the results or change the results in my life, then I have to change my belief system.
Right.
And most of those thoughts and belief systems are subconscious. So finding that out, just having tools so I can find out my subconscious belief systems, so then I can adjust and collect evidence to prove whether they're true or false. for
Right.
me.
Right. Interesting. So it's a mining project.
It is. It is very much.
We got to get down, peel some scabs. Let's get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so, but it's easy to get lost. You know, I bump up against this now and then. It's easy to get lost in like just navel gazing. You know, like there's action about. I'm saying it's like
Yeah.
like actionable change, whatever. It's not just all navel gazing. You know, it's like so there's a fine line between that. But it's like how. You know, and I described for you a little bit, and again, the viewers have heard it too. But this idea of rephetism, rephetic, self-examination, making a perennial assessment, right? This is the age-old thing, and it's not, obviously this all maps onto the. Nothing is that more than a couple degrees separated.
Yeah.
So who are we? Where we're going? But I think this is the most important one, is like, how the fuck did we get here?
So why,
in any sense?
Why help me understand for you why that is so important. Because that hasn't been an importance in my life, and I'm not saying that there's not relevance or importance there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, maybe it's just a rose by another name.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
I mean, who are we? Who am I?
Right.
Let's say in a personal context, or in a national context, or cultural context. Okay, where are we? We're sitting in St. Charles, in Missouri, in this Western culture of the U.S., right?
Right.
That comes with all these layers of impressions from whatever the culture is.
100%.
So just to even look at the who am I in that sense, it's like you could dig all day long there if you want.
Yeah.
What are the influences? This kind of thing.
I call them the games.
The games
of
okay.
life.
Yeah.
So we got games of husband, games of man, games of woman, games of
right.
And we're all playing these games, and I don't even know what the rules are to what's a game of man. In the game of man, who wins?
Yeah.
The one with the most toys, the one with the biggest.
Nobody. The only people that win these games are the people that at some point stop playing.
Right. And how do you
those
stop
are the
playing?
only people that win.
Right.
And so how do you stop playing?
That's the journey.
Well, yeah, and like this is, we always use the Matrix metaphor,
right.
You know. Yeah. I mean, it's
now
all.
I understand why. Yeah.
Okay, but again, so there's more. So what about who am I individually, right? I've got all these roles, either assumed or assigned. We're all playing this word salad.
Yeah.
Try to fucking understand anything.
Right.
Okay. Much less, I think this part's comical. It's like I meet somebody, whether I know it or not. I'm putting a template on them. You agree to this unpublicized list of how you're going to play a role in a relationship that serves me. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll do it with my kids. It's like, or whatever. So the point is like, stop.
Right.
Stop doing this stuff. Pause. And then have some trusted counsel, or a program, or action, or therapy, or even if it's just a group of sincere friends. It's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm looking at this. I gotta look at this. Oh, this keeps popping up. Or let's say in practical senses, I was looking at like my first and only marriage. It was like I picked exactly the woman that was going to give me exactly the results that I got.
Right.
I was like, wow, this is nuts, man.
Yeah.
No fault on her. It was like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I believe that our subconscious picks. I believe that our subconscious communicates without us even consciously knowing all the time. This
has even brought us right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, if my subconscious belief system believes that I'm unlovable, let's just say at an early age, my mom whooped my ass, and I told myself, are we the language?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Say whatever you want.
So, I just want to make sure. So if my mom whoops my ass and I tell myself a story at 4 years old that mom doesn't love me, and then I start collecting evidence throughout my whole life that I'm unlovable, and then you could throw me into a picking pool with 1,000 women that will treat me great and one woman that's going to treat me like shit and prove that I'm unlovable.
Reinforce that same result.
I'm going to go in there with no information, and they won't identify. And I'm going to pick the one that serves that.
Stop it.
I am, because
I know.
that's our subconscious communicate,
right?
And we call it, men call it gut instinct, women call it intuition. And I think so much of this world, for me, my journey has been to shut off and build that relationship with that, and build that relationship with hearing that, listening to that, and seeing what's guiding me. Is it my subconscious belief system that I'm unlovable, or is it something more divine that's telling me to go this way? I get to learn to differentiate those two for myself.
Yeah, but what is the chasm between, let's just call it sick dysfunction, or, again, not even a judgment sense, but I'm in a frame where I'm producing arguably negative results or liabilities or something, let's say. Not even labeled. Okay, call it less than effective, less than positive. Again, I try to steer away from all these labels on all this stuff because I don't think it helps. Certainly doesn't help me, but so I'm stuck in but there's a big chasm between here's where I'm at, identifying all this stuff, sorting through it, looking at the whole balance sheet of liabilities and assets. Am I even capable of doing something different, right? How can I set this stuff down, start practicing some new things, grow, mature, honestly and courageously confront these things, Yeah. And then it's like even the belief in could it be different? Can I imagine a me that is thinking differently, living differently, acting differently, with different relationships, with different outcomes, different inputs?
Yeah.
That's a whole process, and it's obviously a lifetime process. So back to the perennial quest, if you will. Who am I? Who am I? It's like down to the name, down to the self-identity.
Right.
Okay. Who am I in relation to my community? My friends, my kids, my mom and dad both passed away. Okay, well, that's not a criteria anymore.
Right.
Or maybe it is.
Maybe
I'm
is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying. Maybe I'm still So there's that. Who do I want to be, or who could I be? And then where am I? Let's say in a linear time frame, which is not necessarily a spiritual time frame, right, but on a linear scale. Where am I in this arc? Am I going to die tomorrow? Don't know. But it's like, what did I do on the day before I died? Wow, that's kind of a where am I?
Yeah.
Where am I in the grand scope of things? Where am I going? Things like this. I've come across people, and I'm doing a lot of talking here. Sorry, but there was a girl named Jennifer one day. She's in fashion and design and things like that, and she's like, I want to go to Manhattan. I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like, get. Or who is it? Just moved to Florida? Kyle. You got a notion. Shout out to Kyle. You got a notion to do something, be something, go somewhere. If it be thy will, the universe, pack your bags, man.
I think people stop doing that. I really do believe, this is my personal belief, people stop doing that because the world's relationship with failure just sucks. Like, people don't have a healthy relationship with failure. And I think for me, it's been so easy to choose to do big, grandiose things because I have a real healthy relationship with failure. I've failed. I've lost everything.
Right.
And publicly.
Yeah.
And
that's always great.
I can do a whole lot and never get back there.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
So I take risks. And like Kyle going to Florida, it's like, what's worse is going to happen? You're going to go down there, lose all your money, and fail, and then you come back home.
Yeah, you can never come back if you don't leave.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Anyhow, so again, this perennial assessment, the who, the where am I going, and then the how did I get here? It's like all that's, I mean, even, you know, I'll use examples of me with fitness.
Right.
It's like I'll go twice a day for 3 weeks, and then I won't go for 2 months. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, just how did I get right here, right now? And, you know, I mentioned it even on the podcast or the book thing in 14 years. And it's like, I set up a little debate with a guy about some of the pyramid facts and whatever.
Right.
And he's like, I'm not debating these things. So how I got right here having this podcast is that guy said, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, fuck you. I'll do it myself.
Right.
I'll have the debate by myself with myself about the same things that you were gonna say, right? I'll give your answers for you,
right?
Because you can read the books and you know what the offering is or the claim or whatever. So anyway, that's how I arrived here. And I was telling you, you know, Chris, and just holding the podcast here, my book, my project started out there in a yellow notebook, scratching out questions, you know.
Right.
So anyhow, the how did I get, and say, listen, we're here for such a short period of time.
Yeah.
You know, what? Maybe 70 years for a lot of people is a good number.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
80 on the outside.
Yeah.
90 is an exception.
Right.
You know? And there's people falling off all the time. I mean, I'm not even talking about the desperate people.
Right.
I'm just talking about general people.
Yeah, I think the life expectancy for the average male today is 74 years old.
Yeah, and it's been dropping, but
yeah.
So we're only here for a short period of time. What are we doing? You
Right.
know, that's how I wake up.
Yeah.
So
what are you doing?
I'm sharing. That's what I'm doing. I'm sharing with you, and we're gonna share with people, and we're just gonna follow this thing with what presents itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna be guided somehow.
Have you ever heard of the universal law of precession?
Yeah. It's 25,920 year cycle. You know all the details of it?
On a subjective level, I know a whole lot more. Objective level,
Okay.
So I referenced the universal law of precession, like like I have to start taking some action.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has to start with action.
Oh, I thought you meant the solar precession.
No.
I'm sorry. For real. Okay.
I was like, you just hit me with some I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
No, there's a
okay.
universal law. Everybody knows about the law of attraction.
Yeah. Okay.
There's another
Tell me
universal
this
law.
precession law.
It's precession. It's how a gyroscope works.
Yeah. Well,
So-
that's okay. So it comes out of Plato's great ear.
Right.
So the wobble on the Earth's axis is 1 degree every 72 years. Okay.
Okay.
So you got to watch it for a long time to understand it. But that wobble takes 25,920 years to complete the 360 degrees, which is how we move backwards through what's the star, the celestial, what do you call them? The calendar star, whatever.
Oh, the astrology, the astrological
whatever it is.
chart.
Yeah. Constellations. Sorry. God, there's too much shit in here. But so we move backwards through it as we orbit, or as we wobble through the precessional cycle. But as you're saying, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's awesome. Have some more coffee, Dave.
Yeah.
No, I let's just call it a corridor effect. Like I'm a visual. I see things in pictures. I'm an artist. So
okay.
So if like you're standing in a hotel room or standing in a hotel hallway, and you're at one end, and then at the other end is what I say that I want, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I want to I want to have $1 million. Let's just pick a financial goal of $1 million, and so I have to start taking action. I have to start taking steps. I don't need to sit there and figure out what all I need to do. I just have to start moving towards that. And I use a hallway of a hotel as soon as I start walking down the hallway, taking steps towards that, then I can look in this door, and I look in this door, and I'm like, oh, here's a nice little prize. Then I get to either choose that prize or continue going after what I want. However, I have to be in motion going towards something to find where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
Is what I...
And whatever's along the way.
Yeah, whatever's along the way, or like I filmed a TV show called Tattoos and Turnpikes.
Yeah. See it it's still on YouTube, isn't it?
It's on YouTube.
Tattoos and Turnpikes. Go ahead,
And I just knew one day I'm sitting in the shop that I had to film this, and I know nothing about TV. I know nothing about any of it, and I was just like, I went home and I talked to Jessie and I told her I wanted to do this, and it was like, it was a knowing, and it presented a whole lot of challenges in my life. Like Jessie's like, I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to be famous or have any of that, and I just knew that I had to do it, and so I started taking action. I didn't know anything about this, so I started making notes. I started, if I had to film this and I know nothing, what would I do? I would go buy GoPros. I started looking up prices, and then I started calling people, going, hey, I have some musician friends. I'm like, who films your videos? Are videos anything like, and do you film it first and then sell it to a TV show? Or
right.
So it took me a couple years, and I was able to film the show, and I could talk about all the craziness that took place in that time. Where I filmed the show, and fast forward a couple years after that, I get a call from a lady that works for like Make-A-Wish Foundation, and she's working with a 17-year-old girl named Emily Linneman, who was dying of cancer, and one of her wishes were to meet the band Slipknot, or to go to a Slipknot concert. And the radio station gave this lady my number and said that I may have contacts with Slipknot. And I did, because of going on Tattoos and Turnpikes.
Yeah.
And so then I was able to get that girl to meet Slipknot, and then we're like, what else is on your bucket list? And she wanted to ride a Harley. Well, Jim Root from Slipknot rides Harleys. I own one of his motorcycles, and so then we went riding all day with her, and then went to the show, and it was like, what else is on your bucket list? And
Just pack it all into one day.
Well, I figured that like this was easy, so we helped fulfill everything on her bucket list before she passed away, and it's probably one of the greatest experiences in my life to be a part of that.
Emily.
Okay. And one of the greatest experiences of my life to be a part of that. And people asked me just yesterday, somebody said, are you filming a season 2 of Tattoos and Turnpikes? I'm like, I know now why I did that, was for, I'm fulfilled.
Just close the loop on that. It's a service. It did what it was supposed to do.
So I
maybe leave it alone.
I'm not forcing it. I really know now that that's what, Emily, that whole situation, which fundamentally changed me as a human being.
Yeah.
Was because I did that. So that was at the end of the hallway, the Tattoos and Turnpikes. I got to film this. I don't even know why. And then along that journey, other doors opened up because I took that. So I'm a big goal guy, or setting crazy things, obstacles, just things to do.
Right.
Just because along the way, I become different.
Yeah, something's going to happen. Change is going to occur.
And
new vistas. It's like the whole, standing on the shoulders of giants kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, I'm standing on the experience that I did that.
Right.
Now I can see.
Right.
I can see forward. I can see backward. I did that backwards, but
yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's for real. Tommy, we're going to see Tommy later. Story about that. And I couldn't explain it at the time. But like 20 years ago, he goes through non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it does the chemo, and it was horrible. And so his dad moved in with him, did the full-time care and all this and that. So it goes into remission. Then later, he's got a wife, Karen, and twin girls and this new baby. He's got 3 girls under 3. And he gets his second diagnosis. And it's like, fuck. So the whole thing is just like, nobody knows how to do this thing. You know most of that story. But I was in a position. This was like where I was. I was in a position. I didn't sign a lease. I was renting off a buddy, renting a room. You know, I'd like not given up. I had surrendered any sort of, what would you call it? I don't know, financial or material. It just completely lost its meaning for me, like 16 years ago, or whenever it was.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm good, no matter what's going on. If I'm living in my van, which I have a van, and we're by the river, you know, or my sister's basement.
Right.
I moved into my sister's basement when I got the idea for the book, whatever. Right. I'm just there to listen, and I was listening. I was listening to the wind and the waves and the trees, and I'm skipping rocks, and I'm as peaceful as I could be, but outside life was as chaotic as it could ever be.
Right.
And something happened. Yeah. But anyway, to bring it back to Tommy, there was also, I think I shared the story. My mom was moving back into her townhouse from a care unit or whatever. And it's like, would you want to go stay with your mom for 6 weeks? I was like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Like, I had zero commitment.
Right. Right.
And then it was, do you want to move in with Tommy and Karen and the girls and just try to be helpful? Because I have no commitment to this other shit.
Right.
And I was able to do that. And it's like, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if I hadn't already gone through the process.
So do you think that the one caused the other, or do you think it's
No,
circumstantial?
I don't. That's a why question,
Right.
and who cares?
Right.
It doesn't matter. But it all matters, and it's all one. It's just all one thing. I think.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I could conclude. I suppose is like it's all just one organic whole.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess there's cause and effect or whatever, but
So I am for myself, when I got out of prison, I went to prison. Miss Robinson ran the prison. I don't know what her title was.
Jackie.
No.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
She was a 70-year-old black lady that was the iron fist of that prison.
Wow.
And
there's a story.
Yeah, and she gave me an audio tape and a book. I don't remember what they were. However, they're both on personal development.
Right.
So it may have been Think and Grow Rich at the time, or something related, or I know that caused me to go down that realm. And then I got
While you were there, yeah.
she gave it to me on my exit.
Oh, okay.
So and so I used that, and then I got into a 12-step program, and I was encouraged to collect evidence of like a process. So if you do this, if you do X, Y, and Z, this happens. Or if you learn this and change this and shift this, this happens. Or you're able to consistently create. So that's the fascination I've had. Like, that's why I asked if one caused the other, as because I want to be able to consistently create results in my life instead of being, you know, and some of it releasing and surrendering to what is definitely a skill.
Yeah. I suppose there's minutia in this.
Yeah.
But I try, or it seems that I avail myself. I really don't try to make anything happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if something presents itself, I can make a decision, you know, but I didn't try to get a creative idea, right? It's like you just snatch it, you know. I don't try to build these trusting, loving relationships. I'm present. I interact. I'm available. I care, right? And there's the fruit,
Right.
But I don't know that it's almost a cause, like you're saying. It's a yin and yang thing.
Yeah.
It's in there. The cause effect is there, like, because I know if I didn't do those, like, this stuff's gonna fall apart.
Right.
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 But I don't consciously, like, I want to create this or do that or whatever. I'm just listening. That's how I approach it, I think. It's like just listening. Maybe it's a poem. Maybe it's my buddy was getting married and he had a fish picture of a big fish or whatever. I was like, because I did some drawing, whatever. I'm not even going to mention my drawing in your presence, but dude. But I was like, let's break out these acrylics and the easel and all this. And I painted him a wedding gift of him holding his fish.
Right.
It turned out fine, but I wasn't trying to do it. It just came.
Right.
As an opportunity,
Right.
And just even a couple weeks ago, I'm like, I'd like to sit down and talk with you, you
Right.
know? So it's just an opportunity thing, I think. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's just how I approach it.
Yeah.
But, so she gives you this personal development audio book.
There was a book, and then there was an audio cassette tape.
Right.
This is back in 2000. So.
Right. And then you and I meet shortly after that.
Yeah.
This phone rings every other podcast. Hello. Anyway, it's funny. So tell me, even just for context too, I don't talk about much of my drink and drug and whatever, but I will. Like, the cool thing about hosting a podcast is, like, I'm in every one.
Right.
But so tell me, so when I met you, and you can even tell the story about my offense to you as well. No, feel free, because I was just a jerk. So you get out, and tell us about some of that mindset or life, whatever that is up to that point. Like, where did the change happen for you?
So I was caught up in manufacturing meth. That's what I was doing. I didn't
No. Say it ain't so.
Yeah.
No,
I didn't go to prison for it. I actually went to prison for sales of marijuana to an undercover officer.
Right.
So, however, that was my lifestyle, and it was just chaos. And then I got out of prison, and I swore in prison that I would never do it again. And I remember sitting in prison going, if they offered me a deal that I had to go to church 7 days a week, had to go to meetings 7 days a week, and I had to live in my mom's house, I would sign it right now just to get out.
Just to not be there.
To not be there.
Or come back.
And I was ready to be done. And then I got out, and within 2 months, I was about to get shot in a bad drug deal. And I remember, as crazy as this sounds, this is my reality of what happened. So there's this chaos going on. There's like 8 people in the room. 2 guys are selling a bunch of drugs to 6 other people, me being one of them. And it just became chaos. People were grabbing dope and hadn't paid. And so this guy goes to reach for his gun, and everything paused. Like, the whole room paused.
Slow-mo.
Except for me. Not even slow-mo. It was
pause.
a pause. And I remember looking around going, he is palming this dope. He stole it. He isn't even oblivious to what's going on. He's grabbing his gun. The other dude is going back to the door and is going to make sure that nobody comes in the door. He's going to guard the door, make sure nobody comes in or out. Like, we're about to get shot. And then it was like, unpause. And then it was back to chaos. And luckily I was able to play politician and talk them out of shooting and get them their money. And at that moment, in that pause, I was like, how did I get here again? Like, how did I get here? 2 months ago, I swore I would never be here. And my wife thinks that I'm at work right now, and I may never see my kid again. Like, all this is like, and so in my drinking and using days, I would always blame everybody else. Like, even while I was in prison, it was like I was a victim of circumstance, and then at that point, it was like there was nobody to blame, so I've got to be crazy. Like, I've got to be crazy. Like, that, I had no reference of addiction or alcoholism or anything like that. It was
Right.
just, I'm crazy because I keep doing things that I don't want to do. And so I I went home that night, and my solution was to not leave my house. And if I didn't leave my house, and that solution didn't last long. You know, I had to get a job, or I had to make money. I had a kid, and then I kept on doing it. I kept on getting high, and I remember I had to go see my PO. This was the moment for me. I was high, and I had to go see my PO. And I knew that if I went to my PO high, chances are I was probably going back to prison. I didn't want to go back to prison, and I didn't want to keep getting fucked up. And I didn't know how to not do either one of those. Mm-hmm. You know, I just didn't know. And so I went to my PO, and she was the lady that I'd gotten to know, and I really believed that she cared about people. She wasn't just that. And she asked me how I was doing, and I said, not very good. And I cannot lie. You could tell when I'm high. My baby blue eyes, my pinhole, I'm visibly, there's no way I can hide it.
Right. That's funny.
She goes, how are you doing? And I said, not very good. And she said, can you piss for me today? And I said, I'd rather not. I wasn't going to give her, the sword, take off my head. However, I wasn't going to lie to her either. I just was, I didn't know what was going to happen. And then she's like, well, have you been going to any meetings? And I said, nope. And she said, why not? And I think that right there was the moment for me. When she said, why not? I really thought about it, and I was like, because nobody's making me. And that's what I said. Yeah. And she pulled out a paper and told me I need to go to these 3 meetings and have these 3 individuals sign them, and then come back and see her and be
she knew him by name.
She knew him by name and knew what meetings I went to, so there was no faking anything. So I went, and that was the moment for me that I had a realization that when some people made me do stuff, I performed very well. And when I was left to my own devices, I kept screwing things up. Mm-hmm. And so she made me, and then, I kept going to meetings for 6 months, and I was still getting high. I was still doing all this stuff. I didn't believe anybody at the meeting. I didn't believe them. I thought they were all just like me. They were either there for their moms and dads, or their wives or husbands, or their courts. And I believed that all of them were still doing something, even if they weren't doing their drug of choice, they were still And after
little vanilla extract, some mouthwash, whatever.
Something. Yeah. So after about 6 months, I started to believe that. Because I recognized the craziness in some of their stories. I identified with a lot of that. What I didn't identify with is what they were saying and communicating, and how they were living and feeling today. Right. And I started to believe them after about 6 months. So I decided I was going to give it a shot. And for me, the journey has been surrendering to a process of some sort. It was interesting because you were saying you don't have a process or what. For me, I give something a shot. It's I'll do this, and I'll do everything that they tell me to do, and I'll do it 100%, and then I'll look at the results. And if the results are awesome, then I'll either continue to do that or not. Mm-hmm. And so I did. I committed to doing these things that these people were doing, and I got results that were unfamiliar. And I find that's where I work the best today, is just finding a process or something to surrender to, and then look at the results. I've surrendered to a lot of processes that I didn't like the results, or weren't effective in my life, and then I just move on.
And do you find yourself you need to know the hotel hallway? Do you need to know ahead of time, or not? Maybe not now, but it's ordinarily, it's give me the idea of what the results might be. And that's how I function.
Yes,
a lot.
I have to see something worth because anything I'm going to do other than what I'm currently doing is going to be uncomfortable. You know, like
Yeah.
if it's not something I'm currently doing, it's going to be uncomfortable. So there has to be something worth
Some idea
there has to be
of
an idea or a vision of what may be worth the uncomfortable, unfamiliar stuff that I'm going to be doing, whether it's working out, weightlifting, or a new career, or a new adventure, business adventure, or there has to be. Even if it's just a made-up story I'm telling myself in my head.
Right.
Which
but
most
just
of it
not
all
like
is.
the bliss of the unknown.
Yeah.
I'm saying you're
I'm
not
not an
much of
explorer,
the, just
no.
the off the cuff, like, let's just see how this goes. I don't know. I guess I'll try it. No, like, yeah. So some definable something.
Hope. There's got to be some sort of hope or vision
Yeah.
for me.
And that's obviously, I mean, that's the story. Most people probably know somebody in recovery from drug addiction, alcoholism, you know, especially like with the number of opioid deaths and whatever. I think it lasts just for some framework. Like I think there's about 2.2 million people long-term permanent sobriety in AA. There's another 21 million or so people using 12-step process recovery in all its various forms, whether it's eating or Al-Anon or NA, CA, SA, whatever. So, but again, just to give some, like, here's a framework, here's a path that other people are using, you know, and find your own application of it, you know. I'm a rebel, kind of. Like, I'm not generally, like, at my constitution, it's like I just don't follow directions very well, and I don't like people telling me what to do. I just don't like any of it,
right?
You know. So unless my life depends on it, well, then my ears are open a little. But that also, it's got to come from people. It's got to be an example thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, here's how I'm doing it. Give it a try. It's not wholly new to me.
Right.
It's like, you know, you sitting down with your story, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, Dave's doing it.
Yeah. There has to be somebody that, there has to be something that's still worthwhile.
Yeah.
There has to be something that I want.
In the people that are the example, or people that are on the journey with you. Yeah, and I don't even like the word the journey, you know, the path or whatever. So, it's got to be manifest in someone.
Yeah.
For you to follow along. And it's not just, you know, people. I've stressed this a lot too. It's like, we're doing this together, whether we think we are or not. You know.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so you get 6 months, the PO, you get your slip signed. I meet you then.
Yeah.
And do I even do I do want to no I want to talk about it, because so even yesterday we were talking about this is important, and obviously it relates to all of us, but we were reading some story, but I think what people don't understand about addiction or obsessive compulsive behaviors, thoughts, whatever, alcoholism, I think what people don't really understand, and it is a mental illness, right? But the easy notion is, well, I'll just have new inputs.
Yeah.
Just new thinking.
Right.
To someone suffering from a thinking problem.
Right.
The mind that has created the problem is not required to create the solution.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to people.
Right.
I mean,
well, I think that's for my experience.
Yeah.
That's for everybody. They just don't have the detriment. Their thoughts aren't creating such an ineffective results in their life. You know?
At gunpoint, or just slow burn suicide. But you're saying everybody is victim to this in some sense.
or
it seems like it. Or
I've been in personal development for years and years and years, and that is my experience 100%. That and you know, we don't just wake up feeling shitty. or shitty's not a feeling. I was taught also.
Mad, glad, sad, hurt, afraid, ashamed. Get it right.
Right.
No, that's
Right.
what they told me.
Right.
I was like, I feel confused.
They're like,
that's
a program.
confused, not a feeling. I'm like, well, it seems like it is.
Right. Yeah. You ask people, how you feeling? Good. Good's not feeling. How you feeling? Calm. That's what I get. Calm a lot. They have to search for their feelings. And,
Oh goodness.
however, people don't just wake up feeling angry.
Yeah, it's a continuum. It's a procession.
It comes
what
from a
you're
thought.
talking about. Yeah.
It comes from a thought.
Okay. Okay.
So whether we're conscious of that thought, if I wake up in the morning and I'm angry and I have no conscious awareness of what the thought was, then there's a subconscious thought that is creating that.
Yeah.
So my thoughts are creating, and then based on my feelings, I take action.
Right.
And based on my actions, I get results.
Yeah.
and then it goes, and then based on my results, it creates these new feelings. What happened for me, and
It's a feedback loop. The whole
it's
thing.
a secular loop. Yeah. So what happened for me is I get people in the program, or people in any program that I get in, or I get a mentor or a sponsor or whatever, and they give me actions that I would not take on my own. Okay. And it does not change my belief systems of who I am, because I'm doing it because you told me. Okay. Enough times, or with their guidance afterwards, to point out to me, a big awareness for me was somebody called me compassionate one time. The guy said, Dave, you're really compassionate. And I guess the look on my face said I was going to kill him after he said that. And then he's like, whoa, why don't you like that? And he's like, and I go, yeah, I don't even like hearing that. And he says, whoa, what is that? You're super compassionate. And I'm like, and what's going on in my head is, you have no idea who I am.
Right,
You know?
right.
And he says, Dave, do you not believe you're compassionate? I'm like, no. And he's like, how many people believe that Dave's compassionate? Of course, everybody raises their hand. You know? And I'm like, yeah, I know this game. Like, how many people believe that he's good looking? Raise your hand. Nobody's going to not raise their hand. You know? And then he's like,
Right. I think I would have, like, halfway be like, you're not my type.
Yeah. So then, you know, he says, how come I have evidence that you are compassionate? And I go, I have evidence to prove I'm not. And he goes, okay, well, if I have evidence that you're compassionate, and you've done compassionate things, would you agree that you've done compassionate things? And I'm like, yes, I would agree that I have done compassionate things. He's like, somebody that does compassionate things would be what? And I'm like,
Mistaken?
No. Right. That's
Right.
Exactly. And I'm like, and then he's like, Dave, you cannot do compassionate things and not be compassionate. At my core, who I believe that I am doesn't match that compassionate. And it took, and he's like, okay, he said, Dave, how many years have you been actively doing compassionate things rather than, and I don't remember, 15 years. And I said 15 years. And he's like, okay, how long will you have to do that before you allow yourself to believe that you're compassionate?
Right.
How much evidence will you have to collect? And at that moment, I knew there wasn't enough evidence out there for me to actually collect to change that. So I have to then separate myself from how I believe and look at the evidence. Like, the evidence says I'm a pretty compassionate person today.
Yeah. And then how slow is that self-image change? And how do you...
I don't believe that it does. I believe that at my core, I still believe, like, in April, I'll have 21 years. So I have way more time clean and sober than I ever had out there. And so in theory, I've collected a whole lot more evidence.
Right.
And at my core, I still believe I'm the guy that did all that other stuff.
Right.
So I think we have to, you know, I believe that the person watching is more powerful than the person being watched. I believe that, you know, they do that studies with kids in school, and they've done all these studies with kids in school, and they tell the teachers that these kids are high academic scoring kids, and then they tell this other teacher that these kids are score very low, and at the end of the year, and they're all equal to begin with, and at the end of the year, the ones that just had a teacher that believed them.
Yeah.
So I have to look at myself objectively and take myself out of the story of Dave, because I've got a story of who I am.
Yeah.
And
as Dave sees it.
as Dave sees it, right? Exactly.
It's so convenient that your name's Dave,
Right.
Because this is all the shit in my head too.
So it's I believe that's always going to be in there, and I just have to start collecting evidence, and and I do today. Like, I do view myself differently today, and that still voices in the back of my head. Or I look at it like once again, I'm a visual person, so I look at it like if you turn on a water faucet. I've had water running for a long time that said that I'm bad, that I'm evil, that I'm unlovable, that I've had, and it cuts a river.
Oh,
that water trickle becomes a river. When I turn the faucet over here, I can create a new pathway.
Yeah.
Like, I'm lovable, I'm good, it's not as big as this one, so my natural default is going to go to this one.
Yeah.
And the more I've consciously played in this arena and looked at this, then they're both still there. Now I have I'm feeding this one less. It's the two wolves,
Yeah.
This one's going to thrive, the one I'm feeding less. For me, that's the way I view it. So it's always going to be there, and I mean, we can go into the science and neural pathways in your brain and how that works. And
then I understand that really to just be this battle between the assets, liabilities in their many forms: story form, self-image form, worldview form, right? It's like those two rivers cut are just there. Anyway, I've talked with Todd and other people about it. Like, again, this idea of some point of neutrality, where I can just hold all things to possibility at the same time. Like, that's how it feels. It feels like just a peaceful tranquility, a balance.
That's where you're going, or that's where you think?
No, that's where I
just
try to stay.
Yeah.
I don't even know if "try" is the word. Like, I know it's a real place.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Yeah.
I get out of it. I'll be like, well, today I've got some negative, or this self-image, or I got some, there's no shortage of people inviting us into conflict.
Right.
Yeah. Kids society. Here's the conflict. Are you in? It's like, no, man. How about fucking no?
Right. I'm out.
I've been in conflict. I've been in such conflict with myself as to just not, just really horrible. So now I think that's my filter for all invitations into conflict. I can sit with my eyes closed and just breathe for hours just because.
There's
I just don't want to. There's so much I don't need.
Do you know the story of the lighthouse and tugboat?
No.
Okay. So there's a story, for time's sake, a lighthouse and tugboat serve the same purpose, and to keep the boats from hitting the rocks.
Yeah.
Hitting the shore, hitting
the
rocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The lighthouse just stands there and it's like, hey, dipshit, here we are.
Yeah.
Don't run into us. And the tugboat gets out there and is doing a whole lot of work and tugging. I definitely am a lighthouse more than a tugboat, and I know people that are tugboats, or I would identify, and I think both are absolutely essential.
Yeah.
I'm just not able to be the tugboat, and when it like I'm the same way. It's like, nope, I'm not. I'm going to avoid the conflict. Here I am. If you want it, awesome, come get it. And then there's so much value created in the person that goes out and does 12-step calls, or goes and like, I watch that TV show Intervention, and I'm like, and on some of them it works.
Yeah.
Or it's a whole lot of effort to do that for the likelihood of it not working.
Yeah, and this was what I was going to say earlier. So rewind. So, it's horrible. Anyhow, So for a while, for quite a while, here I guess here's where it comes from a lot of things, right? So if you're on the front lines, and obviously there are people more on the front lines than I am, but my best friend in early sobriety, Rich Gwynn, Pat, he went by.
His name's Rich Gwynn, and he went by Pat.
Yeah, his middle name was Pat, I think.
Okay.
So
Rich Gwynn, Pat.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
But love him. I think he's passed 20, maybe 25 years ago. But point was, it's like the approaching the drowning, hands out, feet out, like you're gonna go down with him. And so he disconnected from me, and a lot of times I've been like the last person. So when somebody that's close to in my sphere is like, thanks but no thanks, it's just like shit. Like I know I've seen it how many fucking times. My brother, I don't know if I told this story before, but he calls me, it's like 6 a.m, he's been high, he's up all night, he's suicidal, he's waiting for his wife to get home, he's got 4 kids, and when I took the call, I half expected to hear a gunshot on the other end of the phone. So most people don't get these calls. Most people are not entrenched in the middle of this human just depravity and sickness and addiction and whatever. So all the way through that call, I was like, okay, here's the deal. Here's what I have. You know what I have. And I was like 10 years sober at the time, or whatever it was. You know what you have right now. You can keep doing that. You can have what I have. You can go to the hospital right now and find some kind of surrender if you want what I have, or you can keep what you have now. I'm getting off the phone, and I hung up on him because I couldn't fucking do it anymore.
Yeah.
That's the only safe place for me.
Yeah.
That is the only safe place for me. So I saw it when my buddy Pat relapsed, and he caught another case and whatever. He's got to go back to prison again, and he's shooting heroin, and they find him dead in his house one morning. They're supposed to ride, so they meet. It was Gene and Ronnie go to his house, and they call me, and I'm like, you fucker, man. And it's the same every fucking time, you know? It's super painful and just super tragic. So I get that call, and for a few months before that, I had seen him. He went from running a lawn care crew to sales manager at one of these car dealers. And so I was in the car business, and I knew him, and so the whole community. And meanwhile, I would see him, and I was dishonest. I was dishonest with him. I didn't tell him what I thought. I didn't tell him. I didn't hold up a mirror.
Right.
Okay? Like, and I kind of did that. I did as much as I could with my brother. But here I am confronted with my best friend at the time, him and Jeff, another guy. And I'm just watching him. And I know he doesn't want to go back to prison. And, a month later, 2 months later, whatever, we get this call, he's dead. And but so what happened as a result of that was the conflict that I had when I first met you. Yeah. I'm just explaining how that happened. It's not right. It's harmful, and certainly can be harmful.
What's crazy about that is I behaved the same way that I was upset at you behaving to other people.
I know. I know.
Not the same exact scenario. However, if I just identified the behaviors, I'd have done that a bunch to other people. There was a guy that relapsed over and over and over again, and he kept coming back, and all these people were like, "Glad to see you, thanks," and pat him on the back. And one day, I'm like, "Welcome back again." And then everybody jumped on my ass and was like, and I said it right to his face. I'm like, again. And And it wasn't, you know, I get to look back at that and go, yeah, I wouldn't do that today. And
I try to bite. I do bite my tongue.
Yeah.
I just had a little separation with a guy I was helping, and I didn't say anything, you know, inflammatory or potentially hurtful. Like, he knows that I don't have to be the bearer of reality.
Right.
You know,
right.
like, I don't have to.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do. Like, if you're
Sometimes it feels really good.
Yeah. So, or sometimes you can't help it. You know, I mean, I've had battles with my 25-year-old son a little bit, you know, and sometimes I just uncork it, man. Sometimes I just uncork it, and I just gotta fucking say what I'm gonna fucking say, and that's it. And maybe that's honest, you know. But I experienced...
It's authentic.
Yeah. I experienced the opposite of that, which was not being honest. When I'm in front of a guy who's dying, and he's gonna die, and I've said nothing, and it's, that fucking stings. That came out of that experience where withholding what I know to be real is the same as just outright lies.
Yeah.
And that sucks. So that came from Pat dying. And there was more to that. Story was, you know, I'm sure, I know you have these stories as well. But they hauled his body out of the front door in the black bag, and for whatever reason, the universe, you know, I was like, I just feel I need to still sit here on the curb across the street. I'm sitting on the curb across the street. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Car pulls up. It's his mom and his little brother. They don't know he's dead. They just got a note on their door from the sheriff or the city or whoever it was. I'm like, anyway, I mean, I knew I had to be there. But so I had to, I got to, was I don't know, blessed, whatever. Somebody was there.
Right.
For them. You know,
Right.
Somebody was there to just tell them what is going on. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to be available for that. And fast forward another half hour, spring, thunderstorm, it's pouring rain. We're down the street at my mother-in-law's at the time. And we're down there. It's pouring fucking rain. We're in the house. We're just kind of dealing with this whole shock of the whole thing. And here comes his fiance walking down the driveway in a sundress in the pouring fucking rain. She doesn't know he's dead either. Mm. She just got done driving from Illinois 40 minutes because she got a phone call or a voicemail. And she just shows up and he's fucking dead. I mean, so bringing this full circle. So when I met you outside of that meeting, here's Dave. He's out of prison. He's new to the thing, and we.
So just to format, I go. One of the meetings that my PO told me to go to was this Friday night meeting, and I don't remember who she told me to have sign the piece of paper. However, I sat in this meeting and I did not announce myself as a newcomer. I didn't say a word. I just sat there. And then they had a smoke break in that meeting, and we went out to smoke. I'm just waiting for the end of the meeting to get this paper signed. I couldn't tell you anything that was said, anything that was done in that meeting, nothing. And then you had approached me. And
you tell the story.
My recollection, and his recollection may be different. I was severely uncomfortable, didn't want to be there, and fresh out of prison, and still high and just not in a good place. And then Dave comes up to me. Is your brother's name Cliff?
Yeah.
So Dave had a brother named Cliff. They were both there, and Dave, I think Cliff was chairing or had said something, so I knew, I identified Cliff. I didn't know you were. Anyway, Dave comes up to me. He's like, asked me if I was new, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, just reaches in his wallet and pulls out $5 and says, here, goes to hand it to me. Now, I'm fresh out of prison, so you don't take anything that anybody's given you. Like, you don't, like, that's a trap.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like that's where I was. It's like if somebody goes to give you something, as soon as you touch it, it's yours, and now you owe them.
Yeah, you're part of it.
Yeah, so like I'm not taking anything from anybody, and you're going here, take this $5, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like all of a sudden, now it's like, now a game's being run on me that I'm not aware of what this game is. This is a new place, new people. I'm the new guy, and a game's being run. A prison mentality, total. And then you're like, here, man, let me just buy you your first drink because you ain't gonna make it. And then I fucking snapped, man. Like I don't remember what came out of my mouth or what happened. I know that everybody was grabbing hold of me, like I had just done something wrong, and then I'm like fucking mad at everybody else. Like, don't you see this fucking prick? And I was like, and then I was just like, fuck this place, fuck these people. Like this is a game and a hustle, and like this, like I just. No, that's where I was coming from, and it wasn't. Yeah.
I did. Even when we talked about this 10 years ago, I didn't really understand. I didn't have all those details
Right.
of what your feeling was about
Right.
it all. I just knew it was hurtful to you, and I was looking at it, and I was like, God damn it. It's not. I'm not here to hurt people, you know. So I was like,
Right,
God,
right.
I'm sorry, and I haven't done that per se. I really wasn't even doing it much,
Yeah.
you know. So anyhow.
And what's cool about that, like to bring the whole thing full circle, what's cool about that, there's a couple. I'm a firm believer that you don't really become friends with somebody until you've worked through your first controversy.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I really do believe that. Like, there's no way for us to, we're just casual acquaintances until we've gotten through our first fight.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a sign. Like,
Yeah.
and there's only been a few people in the 12-step program that I've had conflict with that has owned any part of, you know, I've had conflict with a lot of people.
Yeah.
However, there's only been a few people in my 21 years of being around that are like, hey man, this is what I did. I apologize. Is there something I can do to make it right? You know, is there anything I can do to make it right? And you know,
and maybe obviously and maybe change slight shift in the behavior too,
Yeah.
so that it's not continuing to cause conflict. And then I mean, I was taught somebody brings something to you. It doesn't matter if it's just right. It doesn't matter who it is, when it is.
Right.
Somebody brings something to you. Do not reject out of hand. No reversals. You know, this manipulation and that's all. It's just all bullshit. Somebody brings something. There's a reason they're bringing it.
Right.
And I look at it.
Right.
Period. And I hope I didn't. But, you know,
you didn't. And
no
it was-
shifty.
No, there was
it's
no
your
shifty.
perception.
Nope,
I weasel my way out of it. Hey, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. Obviously, that's wrong of me. Can I make it right and stop fucking doing it?
To your credit, the byproduct of that, I was so angry and so in that mentality that my first sponsor they called Grumpy Pat. Okay, that was his name, and he was an awesome sponsor. He was a tremendous dude. However, my goal was to get 1 year, and then I was going to go back to that meeting, and I was going to punch you in the mouth. That was, and I let him know. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to get a year. I'm going to go back. I'm going to celebrate a year.
I didn't know all of this.
And then, I know you didn't. And Pat's like, no. So when I got a year, that was what drove. Like I was more driven to prove you wrong, and I didn't even know who you were because I hadn't seen you.
I'm really a nobody. Yeah, it's your journey. Here's just some jerk off at a meeting.
So we can look at that and go, and then at 1 year, my sponsor gives me my coin, and he says, do you think that it would serve you to go punch him in the face? And I was like, no. You know, I want to, and it's not going to end, you know.
Yeah.
That was I didn't see you for, I quit going to that program.
Right.
And it was actually like 8.5 years later
Right.
that or 10 years later or whatever. It was 8.5 years later before I started going back to that program. So, however, like we can look at that and go, no is uncomfortable, or no, I can even look at that and go, I wouldn't do that to anybody else. And I know how much of a role that played in, fuck you, I'm going to prove you wrong. You know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I've talked about this with other people too. It's like, it's maybe not the best motivation, like negative motivations, but they're sometimes effective.
Sometimes,
you know, like I would say, it's a lot easier to have positive, loving, wholesome, whatever motivation for doing things. But sometimes a little spite and a little whatever like gets me off my ass. I deliver
sometimes in a very effective
way. For sure. Yeah, that's great. Here, so let's shift a little.
Okay.
Tell me about your artwork. Tell me about the tattooing and some of the journey stuff with all that. I watched Tattoos and Turnpikes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I watched every episode, but it was just great. It was just great to see you out with those people.
Yeah.
And just the stories of the people and the places and the whole culture.
Yeah.
Even though I am out, I'm not in the tattoo culture at all.
Right.
All my scars are on the inside.
right.
All my bleeding wounds.
Right.
So, anyway, but tell me about art. And did it always start with tattooing, or was it?
No.
What's the whole history of the artist?
So I grew up super poor. I used to believe that everybody could draw if they were taught. And so I really believed that I had good teachers in my life and that I could teach anybody until I started teaching people. And then I realized that's not the case. So there's definitely a God-given talent that I have. However, it was mistakenly honed at an early age. My dad, I'm one of 7 kids, and he never had a real financially profitable job.
Right.
And he worked for a copy machine place. He worked in copy machines for years, and back then, these copy machines were huge. Now,
and expensive.
So he would go and set up these copy machines for different companies, and they had boxes of paper that were on the reams. And so they would have to run a whole box of paper through this printer, and they would print one little letter on each page just to make sure that the copy machine worked right, everything worked great before he left. And so then he would bring that box of paper that was trash, and he'd bring it home to me. So it was plain white paper. So I learned how to make every origami thing that you could make because we had paper, and I drew and
use what you got.
I used what I had.
Oh my goodness!
So I drew all the time, man. And like I've got pictures of like when I was 8 years old. I'd prop up my He-Man and I would draw them at the table.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I can look at it and go, man, I was 8 years. I signed it, and I was 8 years old. And so
you have all this stuff.
I have some of it.
Okay.
The stuff that my mom had, because I lost everything. And then, so being that poor also spawned me being an entrepreneur. I would take a picture out of like a teen magazine of some male heartthrob, and I would send it to my dad, and he would make photocopies of it, and he could make me like 10 a day, and he'd bring them back, and I'd take them to school and sell them for 50 cents so girls hang them in their locker.
Oh.
And, so... then I would find some inspirational drawing and draw it, and then have my dad make copies, and I would sell those to different people.
Right.
And,
quarters, 50 cents.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I started drawing at an early age. I had an art teacher named Howard Woods. It was an incredible art teacher. At 9th grade, I got to go to his. That's when we shifted from one art teacher to the other, and I'll never forget the first day of school. He wrote on a big chalkboard. He waited. We were all like loud. It was first day of school, and we're all in there, and he just stood there at the chalkboard and waited for everybody to get quiet. When everybody got quiet, then he wrote all the way across his chalkboard, art is 90% or 10% talent, 90% bullshit. And he wrote bullshit, and I was like, ooh, this is a cool teacher.
I kind of dig this dude.
I dig this dude. And he really helped cultivate. He allowed each of his students to experience and cultivate their own thing, and he inspired me. I wanted to be an art teacher because I thought how cool it would be just to sit around and draw and send
write that same thing across the board.
Right, and right, and then have 3 months off a year, and so that's what I was going. That was my plan, and then felonies prevented me from becoming a teacher.
Damn felonies!
I know. So, I got out, or I started my own company, commercial cleaning company, and it was very successful. And then I went through a divorce, and that company got sacrificed in the divorce. And and then I was like, I'm starting over. I'm going to start doing art again. And my relationship had ended, my career had ended, and so I started drawing and painting again. And I've always liked portraits, so I started painting portraits, and I got a job, or I started my own business. I built a little studio in Troy. This lady Deb had Deb's Digital Photography. She did it was a portrait studio. She gave me a little space there that I would do portraits, and she would make it available to her clientele, and then I would give her a portion of every one that was sold. And it was awesome. I was doing art, however, it wasn't sustainable. It was feast or famine, and now I had child support and everything else. So I went back to work and started another company, and I was bound and determined I was going to pursue my art. I wasn't going to give up on that. And everybody wanted me to tattoo, and I had all kinds of tattoo artist friends, and my brother wanted me to do his back piece, and he said he would buy me all the stuff, and I had another tattoo artist friend that ordered me all the stuff, and they were all supportive of me getting into the tattoo industry, and I was scared to death of working with the public and blood. I was scared to death.
I'm sorry, that's too funny.
It's true. I made it through prison without catching. I'm the one person in the whole prison probably that didn't get athlete's foot. I know that sounds crazy. I was nervous wreck to catch something or to get something. I didn't tattoo in prison. Everybody's like, did you tattoo? Nope. No, man. When you go into prison, they told me 267 inmates had HIV. And they're not, nobody's walking around with the scarlet letter.
They don't tell you who it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was, no, I'm not going to, I didn't want to do that. So I started tattooing on my brother. And
this was later? This after you get out?
Yeah, after
You're
I got
sober already? Or what?
Yeah. I was
okay,
sober.
okay.
Yep, I was sober, and I was probably 2 years sober.
Yeah.
And
start with your brother.
I started with my brother, and then I tattooed on my sister, and I tattooed on some friends, and then pretty soon it was I was doing better work than most shops around, and I was tattooing. So I made a little shop in my house, and then I was bound and determined to open up a regular shop. And I come across Denny, who's my business partner. He'd opened up a shop and wasn't a tattoo artist and wanted to partner up with somebody, so I partnered up with him, and that was 17 years ago. So shortly after we opened, we went through the economic collapse of 2008, and we stayed afloat in the luxury business,
Yeah.
So the rest has been history, man. I said I'm crazy, goal oriented. I told Robbie that I was going to tattoo on Shinedown, and he's like, "How are you going to do that?" I'm like, "I have no idea."
Right.
And so I would pack up all my stuff, all my tattoo stuff, and go to a concert, and then I would hang out by the backstage area all day, and then just ear hustle anybody that's willing to listen to me. And after 4 times of doing that, somebody was like, "I want a tattoo," and they brought me back, and then I ended up tattooing. I'm like, "I'll tattoo on you for free just to get back there." And
yeah.
And then once I tattooed on Shinedown, then word of mouth spread, and other bands, we just built a trust with the bands, and then just referral, word of mouth, and different people. I met Shinedown's head of security. His name was Jake Lawson, and then when they weren't touring, he would go with different people, and so when he was touring with 10 Years or Breaking Benjamin or Papa Roach or whatever, they would reach out. So we got to meet all of them and tattoo on them guys. And then now he's Dave Chappelle's head of security. So they flew us down a couple times to Austin to tattoo down there. So it's afforded me a lifestyle that's crazy. You know, I get to meet, now I just get to pick random people that I want to meet and then figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And really, it's just to sit down and do this, you know, without the recording. However, I just want to sit down and talk and meet and build relationships with people.
Right.
Because I do believe that we are all connected and we're all, you know, I went so far down as to like, you know, there's no proof that you even exist.
Oh,
you know, like,
wow, that's a rabbit hole.
Yeah. So I've taken
just friends you haven't met yet.
Right.
Like if they're, you know, if I'm cool, here's this other person.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And magic.
Yeah.
But only with the cool people. I mean, the cool, peaceful, connecting people. You know.
Right.
And isn't it? Would you say that most people are that way? It's just you got to cut through the veneer of the looks or the persona or how people are. You know what I'm saying? Are most people real and humble and just meet you at that level, or that you got to kind of? But maybe for you, because they're coming for tattoo, like they drop the pretense.
They do.
Okay.
So I tell people all the time, like I wanted to get into tattooing to do art, and I thought it was a cool lifestyle that I could dress how I wanted, I could look how I want, I could do, you know, listen to whatever music I wanted, and turns out, like, my favorite part of tattooing is I get somebody that comes and sits in my chair, and there's thousands of tattoo artists now everywhere. I mean, there's a tattoo shop everywhere. Yeah. And they've sought me out because I've got a waiting list. I'm not the cheapest. And so for whatever reason, they want me to tattoo on them. And then they come in. And for me, it is important. I truly honor that they've picked me and asked me. And people are getting tattoos now with so much story and meaning behind them. So they've chosen me to put something on their body forever. Right. You know, like very few things are you going to do that's going to last forever, you know, and a tattoo's one of them. Yeah. So I think the level of trust that they start our relationship. It begins with a level of trust, respect, and gratitude. Vulnerability.
Yeah, all that,
Like, you know how long it takes to get that in a relationship with somebody? And that's where
they have to start.
That's where they start with me.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Real quick, we can have a 4-hour tattoo session, and I'm hearing things from them, and we're communicating at a level of like lifelong friendships. So I'm able to build a relationship super fast. It took me, and that's my theory of how it's able to happen like that. However, I'm able to build some really tremendous relationships with people quickly that is definitely not my experience out in public.
Right.
You know, you run into somebody casually and have coffee with them.
Or even other business relationships or whatever. Like, there's just not that requirement that they reach that point of trust and vulnerability on whatever, right?
Right.
And also with the... you know, in the context of the story and the permanence of the tattoo.
Right.
Like there's the motivation is there too. Well, that's just a beautiful scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's what you get to do every day.
I get to do that every day.
And you're creating your artistry.
Yeah. So people ask me, like, one of the greatest, I had a coach, like a life coach, do an exercise with me one time, and he said, if I gave you $100 billion, what would your life look like on a daily basis? So Like after you go full Conor McGregor for the first 5 years and buy
Yeah.
planes and do all kinds of craziness, like what gets you up in the morning? And it was a writing assignment, and wanted to write out details, as detailed as I could get. And so, I had this. So then we met back again, and I'm reading this list, and he's asked me questions. Like I said, I wanted this humongous house on the beach, and he's like, when you say humongous, how humongous? And I'm like, humongous. And he's like, give me a square footage. And I'm like, I don't know, like big. And he's like, let's be specific. Like, how big do you want it? And I'm like, 40,000 square foot. And he's like, 40,000 square foot. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, what beach? And I'm like, I don't know, Florida or Hawaii. He's like, well, you want Florida or Hawaii? And so I picked, and then he went through and asked questions on everything that I had on my list. And then he told me to go and revise my list and get as specific as I could. So then I got specific as I could. It was all the specifics I'd left out the first time. So then when we met again, he starts asking me and probing me why I want it. Why do you want a 40,000 square foot? And do you want to own it or do you want to rent it? And through his support and asking these questions and my willingness to like in my head, I wanted this 40,000 square foot house because I wanted to be able to invite Joe Rogan and have something that he would want so that I could build a relationship with him.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I also wanted to be able to gift that to somebody, like, here, take your family down and stay at this house.
Yeah.
And so he was like, so tell me more about it. Is it just Joe Rogan? I'm like, no, there's all kinds of other people. And he's like, okay, why those people? And I'm like, because they inspire me. And he's like, okay, so you want to build and cultivate relationships with people that inspire you? And I'm like, yes. Okay. And he's like, so the house is how you're going to do that?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes. And he's like, okay. What do you want out of giving that house to somebody to go down and spend their? So I want to inspire other people. So out of that house, why I wanted that house was I wanted to build and cultivate relationships with people that inspire me, and I wanted to inspire other people. Mm-hmm. So he helped me chase this whole list of everything that I wanted, and it came down to 6 things. It's like I want to build and cultivate relationships with people that inspire me. I want to inspire other people. I want to do artwork. I want to spend time near water. I want to travel, and I want to do personal development. Continue to do personal development. Learn about myself and why I think the way I think.
Yeah.
And he's like, cool. Then you don't need
had nothing to do with the $100 billion.
No, you don't need $100 billion. Start doing that stuff. And it changed. That was a big pivotal moment for me, and everything else was the how I'd planned on doing those things. Mm-hmm. And so now I got FTH on my wrist. It's fuck the how. The how's not my responsibility. I just need to start doing those things. So yeah, that's what my daily life looks like. I get up and do art. I spend time near water as much as I can, out in nature. Near water, I feel spiritual when I'm out in nature, especially near water. Travel as much as we can, continue to do personal development and do art. So
Yeah. A lot of people, I have a similar experience, but a lot of people have to travel a long way around to even get a glimpse, or maybe they don't get a glimpse of what the essence of that is, right?
Yeah. It's seemed pretty easy for me, and I've done my best, and I've coached all kinds of people now through the personal development. What I found is people are scared to allow themselves to dream today, and there's a whole lot of themes that I see when you're talking about there's so many themes when you start doing this and you start working with other people. You see giant themes that just show up over and over, different faces, same theme. Mm-hmm. And people don't allow themselves to dream and or want for anything. They're scared of failing if they do, what that means about them. And there's this external validation that's required around every corner from everybody.
And market validation too.
Yeah.
Money, whatever. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so that's a great story. It's really exercise.
Yeah.
Not just a story, but
and it all requires somebody else. Like when we started, you were like, my thinking cannot produce results different than what my thinking produces. So everything that I've ever done has required somebody else helping me through this process.
Yeah.
Like I go out in nature and I can only get so far by myself. I have to have somebody else help me break down and understand what's going on inside of me. Somebody that's done it before.
Seesaw requires two people to play. That's funny. That's the image that just popped into my head. So I have an art story.
Okay.
In as much as, well, I told Wade about like a music block that I gained. I guess I gained it. Like I swore to the universe I was done with music, and it's true. It's literally true.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah.
Were you a musician?
When I was a kid, I was playing the mandolin. I played with my dad's band. I was doing all. But mandolin's not easy to play.
Right.
You know. Anyway, we went to this bar. They had a gig, and my brother, I think, was with me, but they wouldn't let kids in the bar, so I didn't get to play. Oh. And from my 8-year-old soul, I was like, no more.
Right.
And
I'll show them.
that it's remained. That is a conviction. That is a constitutional cornerstone.
Right.
And so I've tried to undo it here and there, but that's fine. There's a bunch of artistic outlets other than music. But so I did some drawing and this and that, and like I mentioned, my buddy's thing. But more to the point of what was my third senior semester in high school. Right, because I didn't graduate on time. I was drunk. I was whatever. It was chaos. But I had this art teacher. Forgot her name at this point. And it wasn't even necessarily her. Maybe it was Mrs. Guthrie. But that's. I
had so much hope that you had actually forgot her name. I really did. I was like, maybe he doesn't retain everything.
I'm sorry, it was Mrs. Guthrie, but so,
in my head, I'm like, okay, he is human.
Yeah, but the point of that, it wasn't her instruction or inspiration or whatever. So I'm at the absolute pit of my teenage alcoholism. I've had a hemorrhaging esophagus. I think I had a bout of pancreatitis at 18.
Wow.
I mean, I don't want to give short shrift to my alcoholism, but it was fucking-ly. It was ugly at 15. It was really ugly at 16. It was desperately ugly at 17. And by the time I was 18, I had severe health consequences going on from just the amount and frequency of my drinking. So here I am. I'm going to go back to school. This is the fall of '88, and I'm in this art class. I'm just seething with self-pity and wounded and childhood trauma, you name it. It's just bleeding out of me, and I couldn't have hoped to die more. And drinking, I had quit doing drugs. I'm the kind of guy that didn't need to be high. I don't need any more.
Right.
I don't need to be fucking high, man.
Right.
I need to be knocked the fuck out.
Right.
And so drinking did it for me until it kind of stopped doing it. But point was, it's December of '88. We're in this art class. I'm doing this. So we've got this. The assignment is to do this 18 by 24 portrait of Abraham Lincoln. So we all got the same picture.
Right.
And we're going to do this black and white portrait with the method blackout. Have you ever done it? So you take your sheet of paper, you cover it in charcoal, black as black, and then you erase the light part, which, it's interesting medium and technique. And I hadn't done it before, and I really wasn't doing art.
Right.
I mean, but this pain and this life pity, whatever it is, the whole pain of all of it, and apparently the artistic expression, I'm like, just the pain was in the thing, and I was like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
And then out comes this piece I was like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but it was divine.
Right.
Peace was divine.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not of me. But yeah, it came through you.
Yeah.
So I did that and finished it. It was, in the hallway and this and that. And every time I looked at it, it was like looking in the eyes of God from where I was.
Right.
And I just couldn't. Ugh.
You still have it?
No. But this is the story. Yeah. So, comes up to my last day drinking. I go to the ER, sober a day. I got 3 days till I have to go to treatment. It's from Upper Michigan to Ashland, Wisconsin. I need to buy a bus ticket. I got no fucking money. There was a substitute art teacher, Miss Greenlee. Okay. So I knew her sons, whatever, but she really liked it, with the one day she was in. And so I called her because her sons were in my grade or whatever. And I'm like, so I sold it for $25 to get my bus ticket to treatment.
That's awesome.
It was the only way I was getting there.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah. So from that time, and the short version of all that is her husband was a lawyer. That's why she wanted it. Lincoln Law Office thing. So I've checked, and however many times in the last 34 years, I could have gotten it back or given her money to get it back. I'm like, how about timeout? Let it remain this token of your willingness. Take the $25 so that you can go have a new life and give up the thing.
Right.
And so that's what that thing's worth. And that's what it means.
Right.
And so, but again, I'm not drawing every day. I'm not doing the art every day, whatever. But so my thing is, how about maybe the words, let's write something,
Yeah.
So it's all the same thing. It all comes from the same place. But
do you know who Brene Brown is?
Yeah. I know
She's done all kinds of studies on having to have not having a creative outlet creates sickness inside.
Yeah.
Like we have to be creative.
She came up on podcast number 1 with Todd, Brene Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so listen, 11 people.
Right.
My sister was twice. Things come up on the podcast, which came up on other podcasts, just out of...
Coincidence.
Yeah, just a coincidence. Pay no
right.
attention. Pay no attention to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just crazy. So, what else was I going to say about that story? Shit, I can't remember.
So do you like doing art?
I do. I like giving art to people. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really enjoy the obsessive part.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's an outlet for the critical focus, I guess. I mean, so, and I guess maybe that's even why I like writing. It's like, well, there's an infinite amount of ways to present this paragraph.
Right.
Find one that you like.
Right.
Find one that works. Find one that might just go from my head into your head, and
Right.
So, there was something else I was going to say about that. I don't remember. Oh, here's the last thing. How's our time? Oh, okay. Currently, fishing. Love fishing.
Really?
I've chased muskies. You know what muskie is? Big.
Yeah.
Big brother, big sister to the pike. But I've chased muskies since I was like 12. I hooked my first one and all this. It's just crazy. And it's a crazy fish, and they're big fish, and it's obsessive, whatever. Take my kids fishing. I was born on the opening day of fishing season, 1970 in Pennsylvania, Phoenixville Hospital. Okay.
Right.
They're all down for opening day fishing season. My dad comes to where they're fishing from shore. Say, we got baby boy Dave. My grandma Tina says, now I just threw out my line. That's how I came into the world.
Right.
Okay. So I love fishing.
Yeah.
Anyway, last year, the idea crossed my mind. I was like, Could I? The universe. Do I? Maybe? Do I consider? Set my fishing rods down the same way I set down the Abe Lincoln portrait in order to have something else, like just in a spiritual sense.
Yeah.
So not fishing. Currently, till the book's done. We'll just see how it goes. But I really want to go fishing. So anyway, but yeah, I like all this, man. I like all of it. And creative outlet. Who would you be if you weren't drawing?
Yeah, and that's what's crazy is my divorce was ugly, fucking-ly. It was. I mean, I sit and build relationships with people, and I've yet to hear one that was uglier than that. So, not just because I'm emotionally attached to mine, it was ugly.
And on an objective scale.
On an objective scale.
Shit show.
And I could look at that and be like, there was so much I lost in all that, and there was so much I gained. I mean, I wouldn't be doing art. I was wildly successful in another business and had no plans on doing art. I had no, out of that, I got a relationship with Jessie, which is unbelievable. I've got, we had a kid together, which was unbelievable. My kids have her as a second mom, and she provides so much more for them that their mom doesn't. Right. There's just, this life that I have, who I am, even this outside external, like Big Dave that people know me as wouldn't even exist.
But the being is the valuable thing,
dude.
Right?
It's It's funny that you say being, because we use that word being, and people don't even understand it. It's like, I have to be, like, I have a whole thing on the world operates from have, do, be. Like, if I have this car, then I'll do the things that car would have, and then I would be whatever it is that I want to be. Right. Or if I have this nice house, then I'll do the things that the people with those houses have, and then I'll be that. Right. And do you invert it? It's be, do, have is, and be, do, have is the formula. I can just be happy, and then I'll do the things that happy people do, and I'll have the things that happy people do. And if I'm not able to just be what I want to be, then I can set an action. Like, what would I do? What would those people do? And then go and do. There's no way that I could go run a marathon or even complete a marathon and not be a runner. No matter what this tells me inside, there's no way I can do compassionate things and not be compassionate. Right. So the shortcut is just be it, and then you'll have all the stuff that comes along with that. You know. However, I have to take actions most of the time to shortcut that. So yeah. That's a good way to end. Love you, brother. I love you too. Yeah, appreciate it. Yep, for sure. Thanks for being on. Stay tuned. Like, subscribe, share. Stay tuned for more Rephetic Conversations. To know who we are, and where we're going, we must know how we arrived here. Welcome to Rephetic, a revolutionary study of the Great Pyramid, which promises to rewrite civilization's history